Alright, so, quick thought experiment. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow. You reach for your phone, but it's just a cold, dark rectangle. There's no internet, no Wi-Fi. The solar panels on your neighbor's roof, they're just glass. It sounds like the beginning of a sci-fi movie. Right. But the crazy part is, this isn't some distant past. We're talking about a world that existed just a few decades ago. The very tools that define our modern lives, the things we can't imagine living without, are surprisingly recent inventions. Think about it. The way you work, the way you connect with people, the way you find your way to a new restaurant, even the way doctors can see inside your body. It's all built on a handful of breakthroughs. These aren't just gadgets, they are foundational pillars of our current reality. Take them away, and the world as we know it completely unravels. It's easy to take this stuff for granted, to just assume it's always been there. So today, we're going to dive into 10 of those modern inventions that completely reshaped our world. We'll look at where they came from, who was behind them, and some of the wild, unexpected ways they've changed everything. This isn't just a list of cool tech. It's the story of how our present was built, piece by piece, in just the last few moments of human history. So, let's get into it. So, first up, we have to talk about the big one, the one that makes pretty much everything else on this list possible, the internet, or more specifically, the World Wide Web. Now, the underlying infrastructure of the internet, ARPANET, has been around since the 60s, mostly for military and academic use, but the internet, as we know it, with websites, links and browsers, that really kicked off for the public in 1991. It's kind of wild to think that something so integral to our lives is younger than a lot of the people watching this. The credit for this leap goes to a British computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee. While working at CERN, he envisioned a way to share and manage information across a network using hyperlinks. He built the first web browser and web server, and he basically laid out the entire blueprint for the web, HTTP, HTML, URLs, the whole alphabet soup that runs our digital lives. He gave us the keys to a global library, a global marketplace, and a global town square all at once. It wasn't just an upgrade, it was a fundamental paradigm shift in how humanity communicates. But here's the thing that gets me. Berners-Lee and CERN made the decision to release the underlying code for the web for free, with no patents and no royalties. Think about that. They could have tried to monetize it, to control it, to become the gatekeepers of the new digital world, but they didn't. They gave it away. This single act of generosity is arguably why the web exploded with such creativity and speed. It allowed anyone, anywhere, to build on top of it, leading to the sprawling, chaotic, and incredible digital ecosystem we have today. And for a little origin story, twist the very first photo ever uploaded to the web. It wasn't some groundbreaking scientific data or a world-changing image. It was a picture of a comedy band from CERN called Les Horribles Cernet. It was an edited photo of the 4 women in the group, uploaded by Tim Berners-Lee to test the photo handling capabilities of the web. So, the first image to grace this revolutionary global network was, essentially, a band promo shot. It's a perfect, slightly absurd beginning for the internet we know and love. Alright, so for number 2, we have to zoom in, way in, down to the microscopic level. We're talking about the microprocessor. This is the brain inside basically every single electronic device you own. Before this, computers were these massive, room-sized machines with tangled wires and vacuum tubes. But in 1971, a team at Intel, including engineers Federico Fagen, Ted Hoff, and Stanley Mazur, did something incredible. They managed to cram an entire computer's central processing unit, the CPU, onto a single tiny silicon chip. They called it the Intel 4004. This wasn't just about making computers smaller. It was about making computing power accessible and affordable. Suddenly you didn't need a university or a massive corporation to have a computer. This tiny chip was the spark that ignited the personal computer revolution. Companies like Apple and Microsoft, the entire tech landscape of the 80s and 90s, all of it was built on the back of this one invention. Every click, every tap, Every command we give to our devices is processed by the descendants of that first chip. The impact is literally everywhere you look. Your car, your microwave, your TV, your watch, they all have microprocessors running the show, making them smart. It's the unsung hero of the modern era, the invisible engine driving the digital world. It democratized computing power, taking it from a handful of experts and putting it into the hands of billions of people. Without the microprocessor, the idea of a personal computer, let alone a smartphone, would still be pure science fiction. Now for the twist. The Intel 4004 wasn't originally intended for a revolutionary new computer. It was commissioned by a Japanese calculator company called Busicom. They just wanted a set of custom chips for a new line of programmable calculators. The Intel team, led by Ted Hoff, thought the initial design was too complex and instead proposed a more elegant, general-purpose solution, a single chip that could be programmed to do various tasks. Intel had to buy back the rights from Busicom for $60,000 because they realized they had created something far more powerful than just a calculator component. That $60,000 bet essentially launched a multi-trillion-dollar semiconductor industry. And that brings us to number 3, the device that is arguably the culmination of the first two, the smartphone. While there were earlier attempts at smartphones, the game completely changed in 2007. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and introduced the first iPhone. It wasn't just a phone that could access the internet, it was a powerful computer that fit in your pocket, with a revolutionary multi-touch interface and an app store that would change how we use software forever. It combined the internet, a phone, and an iPod into one seamless package. The effect on our daily lives has been staggering. It changed how we communicate, from calls to texts to video chats. It changed how we navigate, consume media, shop, bank, and even date. The smartphone created entire new industries while disrupting countless old ones. It put a camera, a map, a library, a television, and a personal assistant into the hands of billions of people around the globe. Our culture has been fundamentally reshaped around this little slab of glass and metal. It's the first thing many of us look at in the morning and the last thing we see at night. It's the Swiss Army knife of the 21st century. The constant connectivity has rewired our social fabric, for better and for worse. The ability to document and share anything instantly has fueled social movements and changed the nature of news. It's hard to overstate its impact. The world before the smartphone and the world after are two distinctly different places. And by the way, if you are using one of these right now to watch this, you know what to do. Hit that like button. But here's a surprising fact about its development. The project that would eventually become the iPhone actually started as a tablet project. Steve Jobs was intrigued by the idea of a multi-touch tablet you could type on. But when he saw the prototype of the smooth inertial scrolling, he had an epiphany. He realized this technology would be even more revolutionary on a phone. So they shelved the tablet project, pivoted, and focused all their energy on creating the iPhone first. The tablet they were originally working on, it eventually became the iPad, which was released 3 years later. Alright, next up is an invention many of us use every single day without a second thought, GPS, the Global Positioning System. The system was fully operational for global use around 1995, but its origins are purely military. Developed by the US Department of Defense, the goal was to provide hyper-accurate navigation for military assets, ships, planes, soldiers, anywhere on the planet. It was a strategic tool, a massive advantage in warfare and intelligence, never really intended for you to find the nearest coffee shop. The system works by using a constellation of satellites orbiting the Earth. Each satellite constantly broadcasts a signal with its precise location and the time. Your phone or GPS device on the ground picks up signals from multiple satellites. By measuring the tiny differences in the time it takes for each signal to arrive, it can triangulate your exact position with incredible accuracy. For decades, this was a protected military technology. There was even a feature called selective availability that intentionally degraded the signal for civilian use, making it less accurate. that all changed in the year 2000, when President Bill Clinton ordered selective availability to be turned off permanently. Overnight, the accuracy of civilian GPS jumped by a factor of 10. This single decision unlocked the full potential of GPS for the commercial world. It paved the way for the navigation apps we rely on, for ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft, for tracking packages, for precision agriculture where tractors steer themselves, and countless other applications that are now woven into the fabric of our economy. But here's the twist, a surprising origin story. The concept was partly inspired by the launch of the Soviet satellite Sputnik in 1957. Scientists at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory realized they could pinpoint Sputnik's location in orbit by analyzing the Doppler shift of its radio signal as it passed overhead. Then, they had a brilliant reversal of logic. If you know the satellite's position, you can use its signal to figure out your position on the ground. This simple, powerful idea was the seed that grew into the multi-billion-dollar, globe-spanning GPS network we have today. So, for our next invention, we're moving from the digital world to the physical. We're talking about 3D printing, or as it's technically known, additive manufacturing. The first patent for this type of technology was filed way back in 1984 by an inventor named Chuck Hull. His technique, called stereolithography, used a UV laser to harden liquid plastic layer by microscopic layer, building a physical object from a digital design. For years, it was a niche, expensive technology used for rapid prototyping by large corporations. But in the last decade or so, as patents expired and the technology became more accessible, it has absolutely exploded. It's fundamentally changing the nature of manufacturing. Instead of massive factories and complex supply chains for a single part, you can just download a file and print it anywhere in the world. This allows for incredible customization, from custom-fit medical implants to bespoke parts for a vintage car. It's a shift from mass production to mass personalization. The impact is being felt in almost every field. In medicine, surgeons can 3D print exact replicas of a patient's organs to practice complex surgeries. Aerospace engineers can print lightweight, incredibly strong parts for rockets and satellites that would be impossible to make with traditional methods. On a smaller scale, hobbyists are printing everything from board game miniatures to replacement parts for their broken appliances. It's a tool that turns digital ideas into tangible objects with the press of a button. And here's a really cool, surprising application. Scientists are now using a technique called bioprinting, which uses bio-ink made of living cells to 3D print organic tissue. They've successfully printed things like cartilage, skin, and even simple organ structures like mini livers and kidneys in the lab. The ultimate goal, the holy grail of this field, is to one day be able to 3D print fully functional, complex organs like hearts and lungs for transplantation, created from a patient's own cells to eliminate the risk of rejection. We're not there yet, but the fact that it's even on the horizon is mind-blowing. Alright, let's move into the world of medicine, with an invention that gave doctors a superpower, the ability to see inside the human body without making a single cut. I'm talking about the MRI machine, or magnetic resonance imaging. The foundational science was developed over decades, but the first full-body scan of a human being was performed in 1977 by a doctor named Raymond Damadian. He and his team built the first machine, which they nicknamed Indomitable, and it took almost 5 hours to produce a single, blurry image. Today, an MRI is a cornerstone of modern diagnostics. It uses a powerful magnetic field and radio waves to generate incredibly detailed images of our soft tissues, the brain, muscles, organs, and tumors, in a way that X-rays and CT scans can't. It allows doctors to diagnose everything from a torn ligament in an athlete's knee to the earliest signs of a brain tumor, all non-invasively. It has saved countless lives by allowing for earlier and more accurate diagnoses, fundamentally changing the landscape of neurology, oncology, and sports medicine. Before the MRI, many conditions could only be diagnosed through invasive, exploratory surgery, which came with its own set of risks. The MRI gave us a safe window into the living body, allowing doctors to understand diseases and injuries with a clarity that was previously unimaginable. It's a testament to how a deep understanding of physics can be translated into a life-saving medical tool. The technology is so precise it can even be used to map brain activity, showing which parts of the brain light up when we think, feel, or move. But here's the lesser-known story, and it's full of drama. While Damadian produced the first scan, the Nobel Prize for the development of MRI was awarded in 2003 to Paul Lauterbur and Peter Mansfield for their critical contributions to the technology. Damadian was controversially excluded, and he was furious. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars taking out full-page ads in major newspapers, protesting the decision, calling it a shameful wrong that must be righted. It's a stark reminder that even behind these world-changing scientific breakthroughs, there can be intense personal rivalries and debates over who truly deserves the credit. Next up, we have an invention that isn't just a single device, but actually a whole category of technologies aimed at changing how we power our world: modern renewable energy, specifically solar panels and wind turbines. While the concepts are old, the technology that makes them viable on a large scale is actually very recent. For solar, the key breakthrough was the silicon photovoltaic cell, invented at Bell Labs way back in 1954. But for decades, it was incredibly expensive, mostly used for niche applications like satellites. It wasn't really until the 2000s, driven by government incentives, manufacturing innovations, and growing environmental concerns, that the cost of solar panels began to plummet. This made them a practical source of electricity for homes, businesses, and even massive utility-scale power plants. Similarly, while windmills have been around for centuries, the modern giant wind turbine is a marvel of engineering, with blades as long as a football field, capable of powering thousands of homes with a single unit. The impact is twofold. Environmentally, these technologies offer a path away from fossil fuels, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and combating climate change. Economically, they are creating a massive new energy industry, generating jobs in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance. They're also decentralizing power generation. A homeowner with solar panels can now be an energy producer, not just a consumer. It's a fundamental shift in our relationship with energy, moving from finite, centralized sources to infinite, distributed ones. And here's a surprising fact. The same semiconductor technology that drives your computer and smartphone is at the heart of modern solar panels. The process of doping silicon to create the p-n junctions that allow microprocessors to work is very similar to the process that allows a solar cell to convert sunlight into electricity. So, in a way, the digital revolution and the renewable energy revolution are technological cousins, born from the same deep understanding of silicon. The tech that powers your phone could literally be the same type of tech that charges it. From powering our planet to powering the human body, our next invention is honestly one of the boldest feats of medical engineering: the artificial heart. The dream of replacing a failing heart with a machine is actually an old one, but it became a reality on December 2nd, 1982. A team of surgeons at the University of Utah, led by Dr. William C. DeVries, implanted the Jarvik 7 artificial heart into a retired dentist named Barney Clark. He was suffering from end-stage heart failure and was just too sick for a transplant. This was a landmark moment in medicine. For the first time, a human being was kept alive by a man-made mechanical pump. The Jarvik 7 was an air-powered device, connected by two 6-foot-long hoses through the patient's abdomen to a large external console. It was clunky, loud, and kept the patient tethered, but, it worked. It proved that the concept was viable. It was designed not as a permanent solution, but as a bridge to transplant, keeping patients alive until a suitable human donor heart could be found. The impact on healthcare has been profound. While the early models had many complications, the technology has steadily improved. Modern devices, known as ventricular assist devices or VADs, are much smaller, quieter, and more reliable. They can be fully implanted inside the body with just a small power cable exiting the skin, which allows patients to live relatively normal lives at home, not just in a hospital bed. These devices have given thousands of people with severe heart failure a second chance at life, buying them precious time with their families. But the story of the first recipient, Barney Clark, is incredibly dramatic. He survived for 112 days on the Jarvik 7, a period filled with both hope and immense suffering. He endured strokes, kidney failure, and severe nosebleeds, along with the psychological toll of being tethered to a noisy machine. His case sparked a massive ethical debate about the quality of life versus the extension of life. Clark himself, when asked if it was worth it, reportedly said that it was because it had provided valuable data that would help those who came after him. His struggle paved the way for all the progress that followed. Alright, let's take to the skies for number 9, with an invention that has gone from military secret to consumer toy to indispensable industrial tool in just a few years: drones, or unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. Like GPS, their origins are military, developed for surveillance and reconnaissance missions without risking a pilot's life. For decades, they were the exclusive domain of governments and defense contractors, large, expensive, and top secret. Just think of the Predator drone, a symbol of modern warfare. But the real revolution happened when the core technologies, lightweight materials, powerful batteries, tiny GPS modules, and high-resolution cameras became cheap and small enough to be packed into a consumer-grade device. Suddenly, anyone could have an eye in the sky. This has completely changed industries. In filmmaking and media, drones provide epic aerial shots that once required a helicopter and a massive budget. Now, a YouTuber can get those same shots with a drone that fits in a backpack. The applications are spreading like wildfire. In agriculture, drones monitor crop health with special cameras, allowing farmers to apply water or fertilizer with surgical precision. In construction, they survey job sites and inspect hard-to-reach structures like bridges and wind turbines. Emergency services use them to find missing persons or assess damage after a natural disaster. And of course, companies are experimenting with using them for package delivery. Drones are giving us a new perspective on our world, literally. And for an unexpected use, here's one that's truly incredible. In countries like Rwanda, specialized drones are being used to deliver life-saving medical supplies. When a rural clinic needs blood for an emergency transfusion, they can send a text message. A drone is loaded with the blood pack at a central distribution center, launched from a catapult, and flies autonomously to the clinic, dropping the package by parachute. This system can turn a 4-hour journey by road into a 15-minute flight, saving countless lives. It's a perfect example of using this technology for profound good. And finally, for number 10, we have what might be the most powerful and potentially controversial invention on this list: CRISPR gene editing. Pronounced CRISPR, the discovery that this system could be harnessed for precise gene editing was published in 2012 by a team of scientists, including Emmanuel Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna. CRISPR is essentially a pair of molecular scissors that can be programmed to find a specific sequence of DNA, cut it, and then replace it with a new piece. This is a complete game changer for genetics and medicine. It's a tool that is far cheaper, faster, and more precise than any previous gene editing technology. Scientists are already using it in the lab to study diseases by turning genes on and off to see what they do. The potential for treating genetic disorders is immense. Imagine being able to correct the single faulty gene that causes diseases like sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, or Huntington's disease. The first clinical trials using CRISPR on human patients are already underway. The potential impact extends beyond human health. In agriculture, it could be used to create crops that are more nutritious, resistant to drought and disease, or even hypoallergenic. It could be used to edit the DNA of mosquitoes to prevent them from spreading malaria. The possibilities are so vast, it's almost hard to comprehend. We are on the verge of being able to directly edit the source code of life itself, to fix nature's bugs and write in new features. But this incredible power comes with a massive ethical twist. In 2018, a scientist in China announced that he had created the world's first gene-edited babies, altering their DNA to make them resistant to HIV. The announcement caused a global firestorm of condemnation. He had crossed a critical ethical line, making changes to the human germline, meaning the edits he made could be passed down to future generations. This raises profound questions. Where do we draw the line? Who gets to decide what changes are acceptable? Are we heading towards a future of designer babies? CRISPR is an invention that holds the promise of curing our worst diseases, but it also forces us to confront the very definition of what it means to be human. So, there you have it. 10 inventions, most of them younger than your parents, that have completely re-engineered our existence, from connecting the entire globe with the web, to putting a supercomputer in our pockets, to literally rewriting the code of life itself. It's wild to think about how quickly these tools went from impossible ideas to things we can't imagine living without. They show how a single breakthrough, a single new idea, can ripple outwards and change everything. What's really crazy is thinking about what the next 10 or 20 years will bring. What technologies are being developed in labs right now that will seem just as essential to our kids as the smartphone seems to us? Will it be practical quantum computing, brain-computer interfaces, artificial general intelligence? The pace of innovation isn't slowing down, and the story of human invention is clearly far from over. It makes you wonder what a list like this will look like in 2040. These stories aren't just about circuits and code, they're about human curiosity and our relentless drive to solve problems and build a better future. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that'll change the way you see the world. 10-minute story. Every day, a new pill of curiosity.